Um, okay, so, oh yeah. Sorry. Nights are rough. So, okay. Um, here's, so yesterday when I was on shift, I picked up a passenger, at around like 5:30. It was just starting to get dark, um and he gets on and he's looking like, you know, out the door, and then he looks in the window, and then he chooses a seat and sits down. Well, there are quite a few people, you know, that ride the bus, especially when it's like certain days and times when it's free.
Right.
You know, you have a lot of, and honestly, I don't care. It doesn't bother me a bit. We'll have a lot of like mental health patients and like homeless people who ride the bus around because it's warm.
Right.
And truthfully, yeah, I mean, California, we don't get zero below or anything, but you know, we're not used to 42, 43-degree temperatures because we're all spoiled by the sunshine.
Right.
So you want to get on and ride my bus for an hour or hour and a half to warm your feet? Go for it. You're not hurt. As long as you're not hurting anybody and, you know, causing a disruption, I don't care. So I'm watching this guy do this, and then he sits down, and, you know, we're going through the route and picking up people, dropping people off. Well, it gets to the part where we're about to hit the transit center, which is like the hub. So you come in and out of that area, and no matter where you're trying to go, like on one side is the Greyhound bus, and then on the other side is the city buses.
Right.
So pretty much, if a bus goes there, you can get on, and you know, even if you go in, they'll tell you which one to get on to go where you need to go. So he's riding around, and I get to a place where he's the only one on the bus, and we're heading back to the transit center, and he's like, hey, are you open-minded? And I'm thinking, oh my god, what is this guy gonna ask me? I'm like, sort of,
Huh.
because I didn't know what was coming my way. So yeah, sort of. Why? What's up? He says, man, I've seen things, and I know you're gonna think I'm mentally ill. You're gonna think I'm not stable. He's like, but I am. I am. I'm not a mental patient. I promise. And I'm like, well, of course, everybody that's crazy is not going to tell you they're crazy. Except me. I'll tell you I'm crazy because I am crazy. I'm pretty feral most of the time. And I'm like, why? What's up? And he says, the next bus stop, can you get out of your seat? I said, yeah, of course I can. Why? He goes, take a peek out the door. See if you see anything. So it was a good distance. I would say a good maybe 11 miles, because where I picked them up, where I picked him up at, it was on one of the longer country routes. So you're going from one little town to the bigger town. And so it was about 11 miles between stops. So stop at the other stop, and I get out and I look. I don't really see anything because it's pitch black dark. And then just as I start to turn around in the door, I saw, I want to say it was more than 4 or 5, but there was a cluster of lights, and not just like 2 or 3 or 4. It was a cluster. I couldn't even tell you how many it was, of these bright lights. And they weren't really high up in the air. They were pretty close. Like, I felt like they were maybe 30 feet, 40 feet from the ground.
Really?
And I stepped back in and I look at him and I said, "What is that?" And he said, "I don't know, but it's been following me all night." And I'm thinking, like, okay, if he would have said that before I got out and looked, I probably would have been like, okay, sure, Bob.
Right.
Sure, Bob. But I'm looking at these lights and I'm like, okay. So I get back in, we go through that stop. We're heading back into town. And there's one last bus stop before we get to the transit center. I stop at it and I'm like, I'm going to see if this guy's full of shit. And he was sitting in a portion of the bus where there wasn't a window. Like he was sitting by like one of the, sides where there's no window, and he was up a little bit from the door. So I stop at the stop. I wait a minute. I get out and I look. And I'm like, oh God, that guy's full of shit. There's no lights. But I kid you not, the second I turned on my heel, I caught a side of him out of the corner of my eye. So I stepped completely off the bus and looked, and he was not full of shit.
Wow.
That same cluster of lights had followed us for probably a good 15 miles.
Wow. That's weird.
And I stepped back on, I looked at him, and he's like, I know. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I said, well, are you a scientist? Are you medical? Are you military? He goes, no, I work at Best Buy. I'm like, are you on the Geek Squad at least? He's like, no, I sell TVs.
Huh.
Well, I said, have you ever been military thing? No, no one in my family's ever been.
That's weird.
So whatever it was about this guy, but something was following him.
That's creepy.
And you know me, I'm a non-believer.
Right.
I am a skeptic in everything. I would not have believed it if I didn't step out and see it myself. The first time seeing it, I was curious. The second time seeing it, I was scared.
Right. I would be too.
I was truly scared because I'm like, what the fuck is following? And now the funny thing is, I had 2 more runs last night after he got off. So he gets off at the transit center, and I'm watching him walk across the parking lot to go into, the depot where you can go in and wait for another bus because it's cold, or you can, wait right there on the island. Well, he walks across to the depot to go in, and I'm watching him look, up in the sky as he's going. And he got to a certain place in the parking lot. I couldn't see any lights. I couldn't see him. But sure shit enough, as I drove around, did the rest of my next 2 routes, there were no lights anywhere.
Wow.
So they were truly following this guy.
That's creepy.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And especially with all this talk of drones and stuff.
I know.
And as we were talking, I asked him, like, do you believe in aliens, extraterrestrials? He's like, yeah, I think. He's like, it's kind of stupid to not think that there's something else in the universe other than just us. And I agree. I mean, I don't know what they are. I'm not going to pretend I know what they are. But it is asinine to think we're the only living thing
Right.
in the galaxy.
Yeah, there's no way we're the only thing. There's definitely something else out there.
No, absolutely. But when I asked him that, he's like, yeah, but I'm not like I don't follow it. I don't think that they're like going to invade our world or anything. So then after seeing the lights for the second time, I asked him again, do you think it could be aliens? And he said, no.
No.
He goes, but he said, I don't think it's extraterrestrials. I don't think it's aliens. He said, but I'm not going to tell you what I think.
Huh.
He said, especially since they are following me, and they've been following me since it got dark enough for me to see them. He said, so they were probably there beforehand.
Huh. That's so weird.
Isn't it weird? Okay, now on a regular day, in a regular conversation, I would have been like, what are you smoking, buddy? Are you okay, buddy? But I saw that shit myself. And not only did I see it once, I saw it twice. It was 14 miles. This was
That's
not,
so crazy.
yeah, this was not by happenstance. This was this cluster. And it was a big, like I said, it was a big cluster.
Huh. That's so weird.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So I hope I see him again, to be honest, because
So you can ask him if he's still being followed?
yeah, I want to know what the hell if he's figured anything out.
Right.
But yeah, that poor guy.
Right.
If this is some kind of sinister plot against that one guy, that really sucks. I mean, it's going to suck even more if it's a sinister plot against the whole world. But even just to be that poor guy,
Right.
like you don't even want to go outside. You don't want to go by a window. You don't want to do anything. And the only reason he was even out and on the bus is because he had to get home from work
Right.
or from somebody's house or wherever he had to get back.
Right. I'd be afraid about going home. Like,
Yeah. What if the fucking thing lands?
right.
And you get surrounded by soldiers or. Wow.
That's
I don't know.
crazy.
It's terrible. It's 6:16 here, so it's what?
9:16?
9:16 at your place, and I'm yawning like it's
Eh.
midnight.
Well, should we get started on your episode?
Yeah, but I wanted to tell you about something first. I can't talk and text at the same time. So I had for a lot of you that don't know, I'm going to just kind of spill a little bit about myself because I have no shame. I'm not embarrassed of who I am. I have PTSD. I have PTSD from several different unfortunate and ugly incidents in my life that I've had to deal with. So I have PTSD. My PTSD surfaces in kind of different types. Like I get nervous when someone gets close to my face because I've been smacked in the face. I get nervous when someone is behind me, even if I see you. It's like I just, and this is even people I know. Like I don't like someone to stand behind me, especially if I'm sitting down. But also, what happens is I have very vivid, very realistic night terrors. And for anybody that doesn't know what a night terror is, night terrors are very realistic dreams. And they are so realistic that when I wake up, I truly don't know for a minute or two if it was a dream or it was something that really was happening. And while I'm in the dream, I don't know if this is real or not. But I had a dream. It's Christmas time. It's the holidays. And I know if you guys have seen my socials, you've seen that I posted an owl that's on my safety vest at work. My mom loved owls. In fact, I have a memorial tattoo on my arm. That's for her. That's owls. So I saw it as this sign, the universe telling me that she's with me. So the night after I discovered the owl on my zipper, I had a dream. And I wrote it down so that I could tell you about it because I want your feedback.
Okay.
I want you to tell me what you think of this. So I was riding a bus. I wrote it down, so I'm just going to read it as I was writing. So I was riding a bus, and the driver was explaining why some passengers had to get off in strange, dark, or kind of bleak, heavy feeling destinations. So basically, I'm sitting on this bus, and there's a person driving, and the person was kind of genderless. I mean, I feel like they were female, but I don't know. They were kind of genderless, but it was very realistic. I mean, it's like I could feel the motion of the bus, I could feel the seat underneath me, stuff like that. And I noticed that there were people that were getting off at one was a burning building. The other was getting out in a dark parking lot that they were all like, you know how when you walk through a dark parking lot and you see a cat and their eyes shine?
Yeah.
So it was like that. There was like a ton of, these kind of situations. And these people didn't question it. They just got off. And I'm like, my destination hasn't come.
Right.
So she explained that it was something in their life they had gotten wrong.
Oh.
So she said, let me know. She said for me to let her know when it was time for me to get off. But yet all these other patrons that are on the bus, she's stopping and they get off. There's no like, hey, this is my stop kind of thing.
Right.
So as I'm riding this bus, a couple, like, she pulls over at a stop and these two little dogs get on. And so, of course, they jump up in the seat next to me and I get to love on them, and I'm loving on them the whole way around. And, I sat next to this window and watched all of this beautiful scenery go by. And with my hand out the window, which anybody has ever rode a bus knows you don't stick your hand out the damn window. And as I'm riding with my hand out, I feel a light touch on my fingers. And I immediately know right away that it's my mom. And right in the middle of this dream, I felt so happy. And I couldn't wait for the next loop. Because I couldn't wait to see her. So we make this next loop and I call out to her. And when I'm getting all teary-eyed, I didn't know it was going to do this to me because I really didn't. One of my first paychecks when I got out of school, my mom didn't have a warm coat. She always just like layered up sweatshirts and stuff because she always spent her money to make sure that we had what we needed.
Right.
And so I bought my mom this heavy brown jacket. And she wore that thing from the early 2000s all the way up till she passed away. So 20 years. And it was her favorite coat. And so second loop goes around. And I call out to her and I see this gloved hand shoot up. And the arm was that brown jacket. and she waved to me, and I felt like she was saying, like, here I am, and I've always been here. But and then I woke up, and of course it took me, and which it seems strange, of course, but it did take me like half a day to figure out that that event never happened. It truly wasn't something like from my past.
Right.
So, what are your thoughts? Because I really don't know what to think of it. I really don't.
I think that I think the bus driver is like one of your spiritual guides. And that this
Maybe.
was like, you know, not I mean it doesn't really seem like a dream. It was maybe more like an astral projection type of situation or something.
That's the thing. Because I mean, I have regular dreams where I wake up and I'm like, oh wow, that was a cool ass dream. Or like I'll wake up after a night terror and be relieved that that event wasn't really happening. But
Right.
this has stuck with me. And it does not feel like a dream. It feels like a memory.
Right.
Yeah. Weird.
Hmm.
So,
I have a dream that's like that, but mine's not a good one.
oh,
I can't
well,
remember.
now you got to share.
I can't
You got to share it
I
now.
can't remember the entire dream, but I murdered this man. And I don't know why, I don't know how. I can't remember any of that now. And I murdered this man, and he was in the basement. The basement wasn't finished, and it was like an old house that had the rock or the dirt
Oh,
basement.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I buried him under there, in there. And then years later, they tore down the house to rebuild something else there and found his body, his skeleton. And then I always felt like that really happened. And then I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago or something, I came across a story of a skeleton that was found like so similar to what I remember in my dream, and I was like, for like that whole week, I was like, oh my god, did I really do that?
See, now that was what I was going to say, is because we've been watching a documentary about like people that killed other people or they went missing in the wilderness, and it's not the missing 411,
Right.
because that guy honestly is boring. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah,
I
it's
think he's
multimillionaire.
interesting.
Um, maybe it's not the same guy that does it. Maybe it's just the person they have on the show,
Like
like
narrating it.
the narrator, because he's boring. He's yeah, he's so
Very
monotone.
monotone. Yeah.
Monotone, yeah. But it was that we were watching the thing that ended up being about Israel Keys.
Okay.
So um sorry, hold on. My son is texting me. Somebody's hungry, and I said I told him I'd send him food. But it was that it was about Israel Keys, and he had killed this couple, and he completely cut their bodies up. He dismembered them, put them in bags, and he buried them in an unfinished basement.
Uh-huh.
Well, people had lived in this house forever, and then it was condemned, so they tore the house down.
Right.
and they come across these broken down garbage bags, but it was, they didn't realize that it was, human remains until he started talking about, what, that he had done this in this house. Well, then they go back and they take cadaver dogs and they realize that, oh shit, um, that, this really was, there was really bodies there. So now it has me thinking, um, I completely believe that our energy is not done and over with. We have recycled so many times. Um, and what if, and I don't always believe that was like, it's a different century. It could be, it couldn't, may not be. What if that was you? What, not Israel Keys, but what if this dream is more like a fixed memory? Because everybody has a fixed memories. I mean, you may not understand a memory, but usually, like your first memories, some of your first memories are fixed memories. So you can't always remember how old you were or what exactly was happening, but you remember bits
Right.
and pieces.
Well, that's like I didn't learn to swim until I was in boot camp
I remember you told me that.
because I was so deathly afraid of drowning. And even as like a little kid, I told people that I drowned, that I died because I drowned. And I remember drowning. And I, like, as a little kid, I refused to get into the pool.
See, and now that's the thing is, I had a friend in junior high. This is going to end up being a whole episode. We're going to end up doing 3 episodes tonight. Um I had a friend when I was in junior high, and um she had survived leukemia. And when she talked about it, she talked about the fact that in this life, she always said it that way too. She's like, well, in this life, I survived, but before I didn't. I had cancer before and I didn't survive.
Huh.
And, and honestly, as a fourth and fifth grader, sixth grader, I'm like, okay, whatever. Because I liked horror movies. I've liked horror movies my whole life. So I thought, well, maybe it's like
Right.
but now as an adult, now it's like, oh shit.
Right. Weird. That's weird.
Our souls don't, they don't die, and there's,
I
they
also
do
used
come back.
to tell people that I could turn into a unicorn, and I would go into the coat closet at school and then make weird noises in there. And then when I come out, I would be like, did anybody see me? And pretend like I turned into a unicorn while I was in there. I came out of the closet as a unicorn.
Oh God, you're not the one, I'm pretty sure, that our friends listening expect to have a coming out of the closet story. uh, I never came out of the closet, and I sure the fuck didn't come out as a unicorn.
I did.
So I got gypped.
I came out as
I
a unicorn on a regular basis. That was like my thing in third grade. And I used to argue with my teachers, and I want to say I finally stopped arguing with them in like the 4th or 5th grade. But anytime I had to write my birth date on anything, all through elementary school, I would put 1886.
okay,
And
that's not a joke.
and they would argue with me That's not the year that you were born. You're not over 100 years old. And I used to argue with them that that was when I was born. And I finally, like, at some point was just got tired of them because they started docking me points. The one teacher started docking, like, minusing points on my homework or whatever because I was putting that. And
And
I
that
stopped.
that absolutely right there is the complete argument for why traditional education is not always the best way. Because, okay, not to say you, because again, like I've said, I do believe our souls are our energy is recycled. We don't just poof and that's it. We are recycled. Some are lucky enough to remember their experiences. I unfortunately never did, which kind of sucks because I'd like to know what I did with the first 100 years of my life.
Right.
But that also could have been a sign, a red flag that of a mental illness. What if there was a child who was feeling or being affected by the beginnings of schizophrenia, schizoaffecto, dissociative
Right.
identity disorder, and they're like, no, you're just fucking around. You're trying to be silly, and it's not funny.
Right.
What if this? I mean, you obviously could have been in 1886.
I really thought that's the year I was born.
And how many kids in the fourth or fifth grade can go, I was born in 1886? I didn't even know I was born in 1974 till I was like an eighth grader and I had to write it on everything.
Right.
But how many kids can write out, tell you, I was born this year? They don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It was weird. I definitely feel like I can remember bits and pieces. I don't know if they're the same past life or if it's different past lives, but I feel like I can remember.
See, and I read a story about it was about it was a young girl. Her family, they were more modern Jews. They weren't Orthodox, um, which I guess that means they have a little more freedom, or I'm not really sure. I don't know a lot about the religion. I wish I did because I do absolutely um, respect anybody's dedication to anything. Um, but she wrote a kind of a little biography in the back of a book that she wrote about, the Holocaust. And square in the middle of the bio that she had wrote in this book, it said, and it was small book, it was just a story. It says, and I remember the heat from the ovens of Auschwitz. And that always struck me as being really odd. Like, is she using it as like, because I'm Jewish, I feel the pain of this, or was she really there?
Right.
So now the more, with you and I talking about this, um, now I have a feeling she was dropping a hint that she may actually have been a part of that, but not, she wasn't old enough to be a part of it as an author,
Right.
but maybe, huh? You know what? Anybody that has any kind of story about a past life, please message us. I really want to hear your story.
Yeah. I think past lives are so interesting.
I do too. There's a movie you have to watch that's about that, and it's called Audrey Rose. Here, let me see if I can find it. And it's about, here, Audrey Audrey Rose. Here it is. So it's a 1977 movie. But here's the here, I'll pull up the Wikipedia. Share screen. Share. Okay, so here's the Wikipedia, and I'll just go ahead and read it real quick. But it says Audrey Rose is a 1977 American psychological horror drama film that stars Marsha Mason and Anthony Hopkins, and John Beck. I don't know who the other two people are, but anybody that has seen Silence of the Lambs, you know exactly who Anthony Hopkins is.
I do like Audrey Rose. That's a good movie.
Oh, so you've seen it? Yeah.
Yeah, I had to see the picture of it to realize that I had seen it.
But yeah, so it's about this couple who is sought out by a stranger who believes their adolescent daughter, Audrey Rose, is a reincarnation of his daughter. Now if you like to read and you get a chance and you read the book is wicked. It always, the book is usually better than the film.
Yeah, books are always so much better.
But it's a wicked read. But yeah, I mean, this is not a new concept. And I mean, I've read stories where people spiritually, they feel that they have crossed planes of time, simply that their soul or their energy has walked through different astral planes, like that there's parallel universes. And in all honesty, maybe some of you are shaking your heads like, no, it's bullshit, it's not real. I can't do that because I have nothing scientific that says it's not real.
Right. I believe that all that's real.
I have a sneaky feeling that we're not, because what's deja vu? Deja vu is our mind's recreation of an event we have physically experienced. So deja vu is an imprint on our brain. Now, what happens when you go someplace and something happens and it scares you? You don't want to go back to that place because there's an imprint on your mind that whatever happened at that place scared you, or you liked, or you love. Why do people continue to go on vacations where they go through the same thing every year? Because they enjoy it.
Right.
So there's absolutely no way in hell we would know about different planes of existence if it wasn't something that we were seeing in our present, body.
Right.
Like, I've had deja vu quite a few times. And, a couple of times it's like, oh yeah, I get deja vu because I've been here before. That's why. But there's sometimes I've had deja vu in situations that I have never been in.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. Maybe you were.
Yeah, because I definitely feel like I've been in the fairy plane, like that dimension or plane or however you want to describe it.
Yeah, and again, if people want to, they want to, debunk it, say, yeah, it's never happened, yada yada. That's fine. I love a good skeptic. I'm a good skeptic. But there's absolutely no way in hell you can look somebody in the eye that can tell you definitively, I lived in this time period, I drowned, Okay, getting back to the friend I had in junior high, some of the beginning radiation treatments and therapies for cancer was extremely harsh. It was why a lot of people would decide to not um, try to continue to go through chemotherapy, because at one time the cure was worse than the disease,
Right.
and it was very difficult to, you had to, I don't even know how to really say it. There was just something that made somebody continue to do it, and unfortunately there was still a very high mortality rate because it was very harsh and it didn't really always work. And she talked about she was afraid of the sun because the sun reminded her of the burning chemicals that were shot into her body. And that's what chemotherapy used to be.
Right.
You were exposed to these like gamma rays and stuff. So, right there's another bit of evidence that she had gone through this before. She knew. And again, we were kids. That a kid doesn't know this. They can't say this. They don't make it up.
Right.
And when a kid's making shit up because there's nothing realistic about the tale.
Right.
But how did you get over your fear of water?
I didn't have a choice
Yeah.
because they make
Which is
you had to pass a swim test in boot camp. And I was one of the only white people, I think the only white person that had to take swimming lessons in boot camp.
Fun fact, I thought for years that my mom had taught me how to swim because we used to go to my aunt's house and she had the above ground doughboy, and I think it was like 5 feet deep. And my mom would hold me and I'd float,
Uh-huh.
and then she'd move her hands away and I'd float. So I thought for years my mom taught me how to swim. And I was living in LA. She came to visit me and we went to a swanky little hotel and stayed because my townhouse was shit and it was in a shitty neighborhood. And, I like to my mom was coming for vacation. I wanted to actually give her a vacation. And so we went to this one place and they had an 8-foot deep pool. So I jump into the deep end and swimming around. I tell my mom to come down where I'm at. And she's like, I can't swim. Well, how the fuck can you not swim and you taught me to swim? I didn't teach you to swim. I taught you how to float. You learn the rest of it on your own. So, yeah. Maybe. But obviously it's something. It's something outside of yourself. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm afraid of snakes. Maybe I got swallowed by a python. I don't know. They're crazy little boogers.
Or maybe you got frozen and turned into stone by Medusa.
Yeah, it's right here. It's very possible because I'm pretty sure I was gay in every life I've had. So I probably used a really bad pickup line on her, and she's like, "Yeah, fuck you." All right. So, well, there we go. We have a little bonus episode.
Right.
So now I'm actually going to stop it for a second.